G'day, Ben from Melbourne here, and this is my entry into Richard McCook's 3 years in the VC competition. Richard McCook was one of the people who touched base with me when I first posted a video. Like Rob Walker, very supportive, kind words, and I really appreciate that. So wanted to go into this competition. I think it ends on the 14th of February. I'll leave a link to his great channel below as well. Let's get into it. The first question was, pick 3 artists from your collection and show their best and worst album. I'm going to start with a caveat and say none of my worst albums I would call bad albums. I just don't think that they are the high points in the artist's catalogue. They're either a little bit disappointing after a progression, or it's an early one where they're still finding their feet. So don't know if that's a cheat. Anyway, here we go. First off is Orb, not to be confused with The Orb, the electronic band from the 90s. This is Orb, who are on Flightless Records, featuring Zach Olsen. Might know him from Traffic Island, Frowning Clouds, Hierophants. This album, because they don't like to put the name on the front, is The Space Between. I should have known that, but anyway. This is where it all clicks for me with them. Big fat riffs, strong rhythm section. The songs are quite intricate. They've obviously, since their first album, been listening to a bit of King Crimson and things like that. You're going to say it's progressive, it's more on the heavier side of things. Doesn't sound like Australian music at all if you're thinking classic stuff like Saints, Radio, Birdman and the like, but this is a really solid, listenable album, as weird as that sounds, but you know how there's some where you just put on and it feels good straight away. So their worst but not worst for me was their first album, also on Flightless Records. Reason being, it's not as fully formed. You can really hear their influences. It's a good album, but when you're listening to it and you keep thinking, oh, that sounds like the riff off this Black Sabbath song or that Black Sabbath song, you kind of like, it's not quite there. Like, it's good fun, very heavily Sabbath influence, but not quite where they were headed in a couple of albums. Next one up is the Goon Sax with Up to Anything. Now, this features Lewis Forster, who's the son of Robert Forster from the Go-Betweens. So straight away, it's hard not to hear that in your head when you listen to this, because they're also a 3-piece. James Harrison and Lewis Forster share the vocals like Grant McClellan and Robert Forster did. But like the early like the early Go-Between stuff, it's spare, quirky and catchy. Great debut record, really, really good. Songs like Home Haircuts, Boyfriend, and the song, title song, Up to Anything, really standout cuts, really solid debut. The bad but not so bad, their latest album. Again, hard not to compare to the Go-Betweens. By the way, this is called Mirror 2, because like the Go-Betweens, as they've gone on, their sound's got a lot more lush, there's a lot more instrumentation. It gets a bit slicker, but weirdly, with James Harrison's vocals on this one, he seems to be like right on the edge of completely out of key at some points, which, depending on what mood you're in, can be hard on the ear. it'd be interesting to see what they do next, because their first two records were really solid. This also has some pretty sweet packaging too. So we've got a nice card in there. And I think that's some stickers. All right. Next is legends of the game over here. Beast of Bourbon. And for me, it's hard to pick their best because I've got a few, but today I'm going to go with Black Milk from 1990, which was their third album. This is the original lineup with Spencer P. Jones, Tex Perkins, Kim Salmon, Boris Sujovic, and James Baker. I think. Is it James Baker on this one? I think he's on the first three. Yeah, there's a picture of him there. This is like got so many great songs. Cool Fire, Bad Revisited, Execution Day. Words from a Woman to a Man. It's got a great cover. Let's Get Funky, the Hound Dog Taylor song, which live would just rip your head off. All right. They're bad, but not so bad. This is kind of more sad because they renamed themselves The Beasts for what I believe will be their last record, even though it's called Still Here. And this one has Kim Salmon back in the band, Boris Sujovic back in the band, Tony Polar's on drums, who joined around the Low Road era, Tex on vocals, and Charlie Owen on guitar, who ironically took over for Kim Salmon, and now they're back in the same band. The reason this is sad is because Brian Hooper had died and also had Spencer P. Jones. And so what they tried to do was get together. I think everyone but Brian Hooper is on this album, although they play one of a song he was written. Spencer P. Jones plays on the darkly humorous At the Hospital, talking about his health struggles before he died. And I think also James Baker, for whatever reason, couldn't make it to record, but he contributes a song as well. It's a good album, solid, but yeah, there's that overhanging sadness over it of it's the beast, but it's not the beast. And there's this other thing, which the last track called Your Honor, Nice Gateful 2, which has Kim Salmon do this odd spoken word as a judge and jury, like kind of radio play, which I don't know what that's all about, but they could have either cut it off and had a shorter album, or I'm sure they've got plenty of better songs than that. Okay, that's the last of that section for question 1. Next is show 3 albums you have on CD but would love on vinyl. Okay, first one, actually Beast of Bourbon Connection, The Cruel Sea. I'll take that out of the cover. The Honeymoon Is Over. As far as I know, this never came out on vinyl. Tex Perkins fronted this band. James Cruikshank, probably the other most well-known person on this album. This was an ARIA Award winning album. It actually made Tex quite well known over in Australia, more so than Beast of Bourbon or any of his other projects. Tony Cohen actually produced this, who also has a long history with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. This has got like this cool, funky New Orleans vibe to it, of more on the funk end of things. There's a few instrumentals on here as well. This is a really good record, which I'd love to see reissued on vinyl. Next one is the last Go-Betweens album. An accidental theme here with the goon sax. Oceans Apart. This was the last one of the reformed Go-Betweens, when it was just Robert Forster and Grant McClellan got back together and released 3 really great records, which are up to the same standard as the well-known stuff from the 80s. Sadly, We don't know what they would have done next because Grant McClellan died. I'm kind of hoping that this will, in the next couple of years, come out on vinyl in the box set, because there's been 2 Gs for Go-Betweens box set, which has covered the first 3 albums and the last 3 albums of the 80s, which have been really well put together, and the sound's great as well. So fingers crossed this one will come out. Last one, I don't know if this will ever come out on vinyl, because this was a band which I think I used to see a lot locally. I think there's a stack of EPs, but it was all in the 90s, so it was all CD era. And these guys seem to just never be able to get to that next tier, and that called Gaslight Radio. I think it was their first one, which came out on, got a little bit of airplay on Triple J over here. Led by Rory and Martin Cook, the brothers. It's got that indie dream pop with a bit of that Pixies guitar crunch sound in there. Unusual melodies and song structures, but yeah, catchy in its own way. Really good stuff. Yeah, these guys don't get enough love. This one was the last one that I know of, called Good Heavens, Mean Times. So yeah, Gaslight Radio, check them out. Alright, the last one is show 3 artists where a best of is all you really need. So maybe like my not bad, but not as good caveat. The caveat here is I don't have a lot of best ofs, because when I get into someone, I normally will find out what the best album to start with is. So what I do have, I don't know if this is considered cheating, I have best ofs of, well, let's just start. The legendary Australian guitarist Lobby Lloyd's early band, the Purple Hearts from the 60s. They're very much that sort of mod, R&B driven, guitar-based 60s sound, really good stuff. Yeah, the best standout song in this is Just a Little Bit. This is a compilation, but the thing is, as far as I know, they only had singles released, not a full-length album that I'm aware of. So a best of is all you really need, because it puts together all of their great 7-inches. This is the opposite, where nothing was released at all during their time, and somehow Norton Records picked up on this Australian band, which I had never heard of, called the Chimney Sweeps. And this is very much, again, that 60s, as you can tell from the cover. So, you know, garagey stuff. None of this was reissued, and as far as I know, they don't have a full-length album. So again, a best of unreleased material is all I need. This one is a proper best of. This is kind of like a skeleton in the closet type of thing, where you're like, I like a couple of those songs, but don't think I want a whole album. And this is the Angels' greatest. So Angels were a band on Albert's Records, famous for being the publisher of, and Albert's Records company released a lot of the Bon Scott era AC/DC stuff. I got this because, yeah, I like their singles, but I've never bothered to delve too far into their albums. So I love songs like Take a Long Line, Shadow Boxer, I Ain't the One, and Coming Down. But I don't need to hear Am I Ever Gonna See Your Face Again. But yeah, good. All this, you know, all that you need, as Richard said in his question. All right, thanks very much for that, and I'll see you next time.